All right. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the idea of wealth itself. What exactly is wealth? And I'm going to start by saying this. I think how most people view wealth is incorrect. I think most people view wealth very poorly, and I don't think it's the best way to view wealth. I think if you ask the average person, how would you define wealth? They would equate it to simply a lot of money. They'd be like, oh, this person has a ton of money. This person makes six figures. This person makes $1 million, 10 million, 100 million. Therefore, this person is wealthy. I do think that the money you have is a component of wealth, but I don't think the money is wealth in itself. So, what do I mean by this? In my opinion, there are two things that truly define whether or not you are wealthy. Number one, are you living below your means? Number two, do you have a lot of time? Or at least do you have a lot of control over your time? And I think those two things are truly what makes one wealthy. So, what do I mean by this overall? There are many people who have a lot of money, but they don't have control over their time. Those people, in my opinion, are not wealthy. Let's say, for example, you are a very high paid lawyer. Let's just say lawyer, for example, or a doctor, whatever. Let's just say you make about 300, 400K a year. You're pretty much in the top 1% of earners. But you work about 18 hours a day, or you work 17 hours a day, or some crazy shift, and you don't even work when you want to work. You work like maybe you're a doctor and you have to work overnight, or you work from mid-afternoon to overnight, or just something crazy. Like imagine the craziest schedule and picture that person has it. Are they rich? Yes, they make a lot of money. Are they living below their means? Maybe, maybe not. Some lawyers and some doctors, if you ever read the book called The Millionaire Next Door, some people, when they have a high income, they try to keep up with the Joneses. They try to keep up with everyone else that also makes that same type of income. And whatever all those people do is they sort of compete with each other. They try to get the best car, the best house, the best lifestyle. And in doing so, they ramp up their expenses so much that even though they make 400K, they spend 420K or 410K, 450K. I think they actually did a study recently. And I think about 25% of earners that make over six figures are still living paycheck to paycheck, which is insane. Like it's crazy to think about. But the reason is they're not living below their means. They're living above their means. And the income that they make is irrelevant to how, you can make any amount of money and live above your means. Income does not automatically mean that you can't spend it. You can spend it. There are millionaires who can spend all of their money and still be in debt or still be broke. So, are they living below their means? This doctor, lawyer, maybe. Who knows? They could be. Chances are they might not be. If they are the average type of doctor or lawyer, they probably aren't. So they're not wealthy from that standpoint. Do they have time? Now, I mentioned they have a really weird schedule. They might work from the afternoon overnight. They might just work 17, 18, 16 hours straight with very few breaks, and it could be very stressful. But they're not in control of their time, which is extremely important. Are they wealthy? In my opinion, no, because they don't have control of their time. And I think that's really what you need to consider when it comes to the idea of wealth. And when it comes to the idea of building the pillar of wealth as a whole, I don't think like I mentioned earlier, the money part to me is a component, but it's not the definitive end all be all when it comes to wealth. And I say this just because if you make, say, for example, 300K, but you work 6 days a week and you hate your life and you're stressed out, you are not wealthy. It doesn't matter if you think you're wealthy. You're not wealthy, in my opinion. But let's just say, for example, you make like 30 or 40K and you might live in some town or someplace where 30 or 40K goes a long way. Maybe your bills are all paid. You're not stressed out. Maybe you don't even have to work like that much. Maybe you make 30 or 40K, but you work like 4 times a week. And, all your expenses are paid. Maybe you can even invest if you choose to. To me, and you're wealthy. Maybe you have plenty of time. You're wealthy. You're not rich from an economic standpoint relative to the rest of let's say America, the rest of the country, but you got time. You're in control of your time. You're not stressed. And you're living below your means. therefore you're wealthy. And I feel like if you keep that in mind when it comes to the pillar of wealth and see that as the foundation and start to work to build up that pillar to get more control of your time while also finding a way to live below your means, I think that is a huge part of what will lead to that idea of fulfillment, that idea of eudaimonia, that idea of the good life. I think that those two things are super important. If you make $1 million and you spend 1,010,000 or 1.1 million or whatever, you're still going to be broke and you're still going to be in debt. Relatively speaking, you're still broke and you're still in debt. You can't afford to pay your bills because you're spending way more than you make. So you're really not going to be happy living that type of lifestyle. And if you make enough, if you make a lot and maybe you're paying your bills and maybe you live below your means, but you work all day, every day to make ends meet, to kind of keep that money coming in, you're probably still not going to be that happy unless you enjoy the job. But that's a whole different story. Most people probably wouldn't enjoy the job if they're working that much, that consistently. So definitely keep those two things in mind. I really want to emphasize those two sort of bullets that come under the idea of what I believe true wealth is. One thing I will say that I think most people should do when they're trying to build up the pillar of wealth is you need to find a way to detach your time from your income. And that's easier said than done, of course. Some people do it with business. Some people do it with like these side hustles. Some people find like hobbies that eventually become jobs in themselves, and they're able to kind of, do it in a gig sense where they can maybe work a few hours, serve some clients or fulfill some orders or do whatever, but they can make a good return. They can make some good money from it. That's a way that they've detached their time from their income. This is, again, easier said than done. It's not one of those things where I can say this to you and you can immediately tomorrow go out and just detach your time from your income. It's something that you're going to need to work on, like all the pillars. You need to work on it. You need to kind of build it over time and continue to build it, once you begin. But I think it's something to just truly kind of keep in mind. And it's one of those things that is never really talked about. It kind of took me a long time to understand that idea, that logic, that in the long run, in order to truly sort of be wealthy to a degree, you need to detach your time from your income. Now, one way people do this is with investments. Some people, like I mentioned earlier, use real estate. They'll buy a property and they'll rent it out and they get the passive income. And the passive income is what gives them more time, because if they make, say, $500 a month, they might not have to work physically for that $500 a month. The property will continue to pay them that $500 a month as long as they own the property. So that's one way to kind of do it. There's lots of ways to do it. If you want to ever talk about it, like always, email me, DM me. We can talk more about it. But I do want to have you keep that idea in mind. Always try to keep the idea in mind that you need to de-link your income from your time so you can create more time for yourself, and you want to live below your means. And I think if you can do those things, that is how you begin to really, truly build wealth.